Good morning. Back to Stone Fox. The race is about to begin, so we're looking to see what's going to happen. So we're on chapter 7 and 8 today. The meeting. It was Friday night, the night before the race, when it happened. Grandfather was out of medicine. Little Billy went to see Doc Smith. Here, Doc Smith handed Little Billy a piece of paper with some scribbling on it. Take this to Lester right away. But it's nighttime. The store's closed. Just knock on the back door. He'll hear you. But, are you sure it's all right? Yes, Lester knows I may have to call on him anytime, day or night. People don't always get sick during the working hours, now do they? No, I guess they don't, Little Billy headed for the door. He sure wished he could stay and have some cinnamon cake Doc Smith was baking in the oven. It smelled mighty good. But Grandpa needed his medicine. And, anyway, he wouldn't think of staying without being asked. The other thing, Willie, Dr. Smith said. Yes, ma'am? I might as well say this now as later. It's about the race tomorrow. Yes, ma'am? First, I want you to know that I think you're a darn fool for using your college money to enter that race. Little Billy's eyes looked to the floor. Yes, ma'am. But since it's already done, I also want you to know that I'm rooting for you. Little Billy looked up. You will? Win, Willie. Win that race tomorrow. Little Billy beamed. He tried to speak, but couldn't find the words. Embarrassed, he backed over to the door, gave a little wave, and turned quickly to leave. And Willie? Yes, ma'am. If you stay a minute, you can have some of that cinnamon cake I've got in the oven. Yes, ma'am. Later on his way home, on his way to town, Little Willie sang to the top of his lungs. The sled runners cut through the snow with a swish. There was a treacherous road at the night, but the moon was out, and Searchlight could see well. Anyway, they knew this road by heart. Nothing was going to happen. Lester gave Willie a big bottle of what looked like dirty milk. How's your grandfather doing? Lester asked. Not so good. But after I win the race tomorrow, he'll get better. Doc Smith thinks so too. Lester smiled. I admire you, Willie. You got a heap of courage going up against those likes of Stone Fox. You know he's never lost, don't you? Yes, I know. Thank you for the medicine. Little Billy waved goodbye as Searchlights started off down Main Street. Lester watched the departing sled for a long time before he yelled, Good luck, son! On his way out of town along North Road, Little Billy heard dogs barking. The sounds came from the old deserted barn near the schoolhouse. Little Willie decided to investigate. He squeaked open the barn door and peeked in. It was dark inside and couldn't see anything. He couldn't hear anything either. The dogs had stopped barking. He went inside the barn. Little Willie's eyes took over a while. He got used to the dark, and then he saw them, the 5 Samoyeds. They were in the corner of the barn on the bed of the straw. There's the 5 dogs. They were looking at him. They were so beautiful that Little Willie couldn't keep from smiling. Little Willie loved dogs. He had to see Samoyeds up close. They showed no alarm as he approached, or as he held out his hand to pet them. And then it happened. There was a movement through the darkness to Little Willie's right. A sweeping motion, fast and first, and it appeared slow and stop. It didn't stop. A hand hit Little Willie right in the face, sending him over backward. I didn't mean any harm, Mr. Stone Fox, Little Willie said as he picked himself up off the ground, holding a hand over his eye. Stone Fox stood tall in the darkness and said nothing. Searchlight barked outside. The Samoyeds barked in return. Little Willie continued. I'm going to race against you tomorrow. I know you want to win, but I want to win too. I got to win. If I don't, they're going to take away our farm. They have the right. Grandfather says that those that once had enough will. So I will. I'll win. I'm going to beat you. Stone Fox remained motionless and silent. Little Willie backed over to the barn door, still holding his eye. I'm sorry we both can't win, he said. Then he pushed open the barn door and left, closing the door behind him. In the barn, Stone Fox stood unmoving for another moment, and then he reached out with his massive hands and gently petted one of the Samoyeds. That night, Little Willie couldn't sleep. His eye was killing him. And when Little Willie couldn't sleep, Searchlight couldn't sleep. But both tossed and turned for hours. Whenever Little Willie looked over to see if Searchlight was asleep, she just looked lying there, with her eyes wide open, staring back at him. Little Willie needed his rest. So did Searchlight. Tomorrow was the big day, the biggest day of their lives. Chapter 8, The Day. The day of the race arrived. Little Willie got up early. He couldn't see out of his right eye. It was swollen shut. As he fed Grandfather his oatmeal, he tried to hide his eye with his hand by turning away, or he was sure Grandfather saw it just the same. After adding more wood to the fire, Little Willie kissed Grandfather, hitched up Searchlight, and started off for town. At the edge of their property, he stopped the sled for a moment and looked back at the farmhouse. The roof was covered with freshly fallen snow. A trail of smoke escaped from the stone chimney. The jagged peaks of the Tinton Mountains shot up in the background toward the clear blue sky overhead. Yes, sir. He remembered his grandfather saying, "There are some things in the world worth dying for." Little Willie loved his country. He loved the hike and to fish and to camp out by the lake, but he did not like to hunt. He loved animals too much to be a hunter. He killed a bird once with a slingshot, but that had been when he was only 6 years old, and that had been enough. In fact, to this day, he still remembered the spot where the poor thing was buried. Lost in his thoughts, Little Willie got to town before he knew it. As he turned on the main street, he brought the sled to an abrupt halt. He could not believe what he saw. Main Street was slammed with people lined up on both sides of the street. There were people on rooftops, people hanging out the windows. Little Willie hadn't expected such a big turnout. They must all come to see Stone Fox. Searchlight pulled the sled down Main Street past the crowd. Little Willie saw Mrs. Williams, his teacher, and Mr. Foster from the bank, Hank from the post office, and there was Doc Smith and Mayor Smiley, and Dusty, the city slickers were there, and even Clifford Snyder, the taxman, was there. Everybody. Lester came out of the crowd and walked alongside Little Willie for a while. It was one of the few times Little Willie had ever seen Lester without his white apron. "You can do it, Willie. You can beat him," Lester kept saying over and over again. They had a race for youngsters first, and the crowd cheered and rooted for their favorites. It was a short race, just down to the end of Main Street and back. Little Willie didn't see who won. It didn't matter. And then it was time. The old clock showed a few minutes before 10 as the contestants positioned themselves directly beneath the long banner that stretched across the street. They stood 9 abreast. Stone Fox in the middle, Little Willie right next to him. Little Willie had read all about the other contestants in the newspaper. They were all well-known mountain men with good racing records and excellent dog teams. But even so, all bets were on Stone Fox. The odds were as high as 100 to 1 that he'd win. Not 1 cent had been bet on Little Willie and Searchlight. "What happened to Little Willie's eye?" Doc Smith asked Lester. "Bumped this morning when he got up," he told me. "Just nervous. Got to be." Lester was chewing on his hand, his eyes glued on Stone Fox. "Big Indian," he whispered to himself. Although Little Willie's eye was black, puffy, and swollen shut, he still felt like a winner. He was smiling. Searchlight knew the route as well as he did, so it really didn't matter if he could see it all. They were going to win today, and that was final. Both of them knew it. Stone Fox looked bigger than ever standing next to Little Willie. In fact, the top of Little Willie's head was dead even with Stone Fox's waist. "Morning, Mr. Stone Fox," Little Willie said, looking practically straight up. "Sure is a nice day for a race." Stone Fox must have heard Little Willie, but he didn't look at him. His face was frozen like ice, and his eyes seemed to lack that sparkle Little Willie remembered seeing before. The crowd became silent as Mayor Smiley stepped out into the street. Mrs. Williams clenched her hands together until her knuckles turned white. Lester's mouth hung open, his lips wet. Mr. Foster began chewing his cigar. Hank stared without blinking. Doc Smith held her hand up proudly. Dusty took a powerful swing from the bottle. Clifford Snyder removed a gold watch from his vest pocket and checked the time. Tension filled the air. Little Willie's throat became dry. His hands started to sweat. He could feel his heart thumping. Mayor Smiley raised the pistol to the sky and fired. The race had begun. Okay, only 2 chapters left. And we see who wins the race and what happens in the end. It's supposed to be another pretty Saturday, so get outside, enjoy some sunshine, get a little sun on your face, ride some bikes, play some basketball, just have a little fun. 2 more chapters, and then we're finished. Have a good day.